Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right up there, that guy, that's John, your resident millennial. Are you still a millennial, John?
Millennial, yeah,
Millennial.
millennial.
Welcome in, folks. Welcome to the show. I see Jake from Freedom Scoop got himself some firsties. Have a nice bowl of firsties with some milk. It's always good to have a bowl of firsties with some milk, isn't it, John?
Sure is. That's right.
So, John, how the hell are you doing tonight?
Doing all right. Not too bad. Not too bad. Moving along there. Just trying to survive out there in this crazy world.
John, you should not be trying to survive out there. You should be staying at home and surviving there. Come on, brother. Stick with the
Well, yeah,
program.
No, I'm surviving out there. Like surviving what is out there.
That's you got to be careful what you say, John. That'll get the cops knocking on your door and everything. Hey,
Nope. Staying home.
before we get going on this, before we get too deep into this, listen, we need to make an announcement. Make an announcement, John. Tell people there's something going on next week. What is it? I forget what.
Yes. Next Friday, actually. Next Friday,
1 week from tonight,
which is going to be the 10th of April.
10th
We
of
have
April.
the Freedom Scoop charity event for. I saw that you're setting up the GoFundMe, right?
I did set up a GoFundMe.
Yes. Who are we benefiting? Let them know.
I have not set a beneficiary yet. I
Ah.
am considering CAF because CAF is an organization that does a lot of charity work, helping lots of different organizations. But I noticed that some of the GoFundmes that are going on for first providers, etc., are being funneled through CAF. I was going to run it by the Scoop group just to make sure, unless we had somewhere else. I want to look if there, because it's not ultimately specific in how they dole the money out. I hadn't gotten to where they specify or how I would specify it. Because I didn't see the option in GoFundMe yet, but we'll take care of that and make sure. But as it stands right now, that is where the money is going to go. Is go first responders. So we're still going to build the GoFundMe and have it ready to go. We'll associate who we're going to go with if it's somebody specific, unless we're just going to go with an overall foundation because both options are sitting there. But
Yeah.
anyway, continue on.
Yeah. So make sure you're there. We're gonna have fun as well as raising money for a good cause. We've got Matt Christensen coming in at some point in the day. I mean, I already know what he's coming in, and most of the Freedom Scoop people do too. But we're gonna let that be a mystery
It's going to
to
be a
all you
mystery.
fine folks out there.
So far, it's a mystery to me.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not one of
mean,
the Freedom Scoop people that know, unless it was talked about and I missed it.
it it was, yeah. So you can find the information.
Good Lord. Or you could just tell me off mic after the show.
I could do that too.
We'll cheat a
That's fine.
little. All right, now listen. Now I'm going to say this, and I'm going to put this out there right now, John. And I've been aggressive. I went ahead and decided to be a little bit aggressive on this. Okay.
Oh shit.
I have set our goal for this charity drive at $5,000.
Oh
Uh,
shit.
that is our goal our master goal to attempt to hit. That is not, folks. That will not be the goal for getting the beard off, John. I think
Oh,
that
is that
I
so?
think that if we set a goal of $2,000 for that, which is $500 more than the last charity
Right.
we ran, $2,000 can get John's beard shaved off, and we can think of something even better for the $5,000 goal. And the only reason why I set it at $5,000 is because while other people have great promotional engines, and I may back it down to 2,000, I'm just putting it out there, but. I was looking at one fund that had been set up, and they have been doing it for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, something along those lines, somewhere just under a month, I think it is. They've managed to raise $6.5 million.
Holy shit.
So I
Yeah.
thought $5,000, if we've got enough Freedom Scoop network going on, that we might be able to get it. And if you could do me a favor, John, because you've got a little more flexibility with your computer, if sometime, at some point during the show, you can jump on that GoFundMe page and get the link to it put into our description, we'll have that in the description because I failed to do that this evening when I loaded everything else in the
Tisk
description.
tisk. Hey, RRC, what's up,
RRC,
man?
RRC, hoping to
Hey,
see some action from RRC next week as well.
yes. Yeah, you gonna be there, RRC? I know we talked about it like a little bit, but just wondering because it's gonna be a fun time, man.
Yeah, and if you'll notice, Jake from Freedom Scoop has made it clear that if you're not there, you're square. And no matter what
Yes.
Huey Lewis and the news may have said, it is no
Ooh.
longer hip to be square.
And you see this? Jake's saying he's making
Shut
a
up.
proclamation here. He proclaims any donor over $250 gets a free Generational Gap T-shirt. I
Uh,
agree with that. I agree
I
with that.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Yep, yep, yep. I can damn sure do it. Well, no problem, ROC. John's going to get in touch with you. Yeah, we're definitely going to be rocking out next Friday from noon to midnight. Going to see if we
Yep.
can't raise as much money as we can for first responders and possibly
And
get a bear.
ROC, you're part of Freedom Scoop now, so you can come on at any point during the 12 hours. You're welcome
Absolutely.
the entire time.
And
So
and we
just
are
let us know. We'll bring you on.
we'll be real big on simulcasting as well because I think a lot of that's going to
Yes.
we're going to try
Yeah.
and make a lot of that happen throughout the day where everybody will be shooting this on their stream for a little while. That's going to be a big one too. Is if we all pop in together and
Yeah.
chat on multiple streams. Just think about it. It'll be like an octopus with lots of tendrils out there.
Well,
Look,
if you think about it, that's also how these have gone every time. The last like 3 hours, maybe more, has been just all of us Freedom Scoop guys hanging out and just
right.
shooting the shit.
And that's really that's what it's about, right? We have some conversations, we try and have some fun, but when it's all said and done, talking, you know having any kind of conversations, because we don't always just talk about fluff when we're at that point either,
No.
though it is fun, but but we got to have these conversations. Shit, there should be a lot more conversations going on right now. It's. Will we get to see Jane? Now, looky there, John. Jake knows what's hot, and I
He
think, I
does.
think I am going to send a very well written email to Jane and see if I can get Jane to come on for a guest appearance during the charity stream. I think it would be very beneficial.
Well, see, the thing is, as Jane's manager, I've already talked to Jane
Have you?
about this. I have, and Jane has offered if we reach the goal of 5,000, then Jane will make an appearance.
Hmm. I don't know if I like that. I think Jane should be. You realize that it might be Jane's appearance that gets us to the 5,000.
Well, hopefully, just the anticipation will be enough.
And I'm just going to put it out there, Jake. I need you to understand some people don't understand the value of Jane and what she could bring to the show.
Oh
And
my god!
so I'm not naming any names. I'm just saying some
Right.
people don't see the value of Jane like the rest of us do. Do we think Jane is worth $5,000? Now that's a
I guess we'll find out, won't
that's
we?
an entirely different conversation. Because
I guess
I
we'll
don't
find out.
I don't know. I give her $10. I would, but so uh, John, are you excited for your stimulus check that's coming? Whatever.
Yeah, should be all right.
Well, going down now that you're on minimized hours, it's going to be a help. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or do you
even though
need
I'm
it?
going to be using it. Well, I'm going to be using it to get a new computer.
Well, that's definitely a direction to go. That's a smart
Yeah.
move to make. Um, but yeah, it's funny seeing all that. I saw something that was talking about. What did I get volunteered for? How's it going tonight, Ed? Good to see you.
You got to talk to ROC.
You've been volunteered for everything. Uh, can,
Yeah.
I know, Ed. Do you think you could reach out to Jane and see if you can get Jane to commit to being on the charity stream?
Jane doesn't take phone calls. except from me. That's the only time.
I
Or emails,
did I say call her? I just
or
said reach out.
emails, or
There's a way to
or any
reach
other
her.
kind of messages.
I
Um,
I know exactly how to get in contact with Jane. So,
yeah.
and I think Ed does too. I think Ed knows the direct line to Jane.
Probably not. Probably not. But anyway,
So, but I was seeing an article, and it made me
oh,
laugh as people were getting pissed off.
Dear Jane.
Dear Jane,
Oh man.
dear Jane. See, that's how you start a good one. To Jane, I'll just whip my wiener out. There you go. So Ed's got an answer for it all. All problems
Seems to
can
be
be
the same
solved with
answer
Ed's
every time.
wiener. Ed's
That's
wiener.
right.
As long as he takes his shirt off and whips his wiener out, all problems will be solved. That's how we get rid of the government right there. But anyway, so um, as I was saying, a lot of people upset. They were talking. I was seeing a lot of back and forth on Twitter in this article. Had posted some of it because apparently, so you look at Canada. Canada is doling out $2,000 a month to its laid off workers and victims of the coronavirus. $2,000 a month for 4 months. So $8,000, and people are like,
Damn.
"Fuck, they're getting $8,000, and we're only getting 1,200. I thought we were a first world country. I thought we was something. I was so." And then somebody finally got smart and said, "Look," I said, "if you're in this country with what they did with unemployment, right? Because I was concerned about what they were going to do with unemployment. But turns out that if you have been laid off from your job, you're not only going to get the $1,200, but you can sign up for unemployment and get your standard unemployment benefits. And then they're going to kick in $600 extra a week on your unemployment benefits.
It sounds
Or, or
awesome.
or round it to a total of $600, one of the two. So basically, $2,400 being put in your pocket for the next. I think that's going for the next 3 months. And the benefits will carry on until such time that it's not necessary anymore, but it's projected through like July, I think it is, 3 months. So it turns out that if you are laid off of work and you go through the unemployment system, you'll actually reap about $10,800 over the course of the next 3 to 4 months.
Hmm.
Which I thought was great that and the upside is they've not only done this for day-to-day employees, hourly employees, W-2 employees, but they've also extended this and opened this up for freelancers and contract workers who don't normally,
Hmm.
aren't normally on a W-2 plan on a payroll.
Right.
So you're able to go and sign up for that as well.
That's actually useful. Yeah.
Why do I need to change my Discord status to do not
Probably
disturb?
they can probably hear notifications coming
Oh,
in.
well, then that just lets you know how fucking popular I am, bitches. So deal with it,
Either that or you
okay?
just don't mute your servers.
Now, I've got a lot of them muted. I don't have specific ones that are important, like you know, Freedom Scoop.
Oh, I have ours
Because
muted, all of
but see,
them.
I'm on my computer all day when I'm
Yeah.
working and whatever. I mean, probably spend 10 to 12 hours a day on my computer, and that's always minimized, and those notifications let me know when somebody's reaching out to me or if there's something I need to check into.
Yeah.
Mostly I just ignore it a lot till some point in the day when I do a Discord roundup, but you know, yeah, I know you can hear my notifications, Ed, and
God, Erd.
it just means I'm popular. You know what? If you don't want me to get any notifications, don't say shit on Discord right now. Go. Stay off of motherfucking
Everybody stay
Discord,
off
bitches.
Discord for
Get the
like
fuck off
2 hours.
Discord, bitches. I'm busy.
Right, you should be watching us anyway. You shouldn't
Right?
have time to be on Discord.
Right. Right. What the hell? They have no idea what I have to go through to do this
Yeah,
stuff. God.
fucking peasants, am I right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, hey, if I can ignore my Discord, so can you. I mean, come on.
Everyone can ignore your Discord too.
But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. So there is beneficial stuff out there for people. There are ways that people are going to be able to supplement themselves. Um, it was other things that are interesting. I do like the fact that people are protected from eviction and from
Yeah,
mortgage
that's
issues. See, now that's Ed right there. That's Ed. I'm telling you right now, that's Ed throwing shit through Discord just to fuck with me. In fact, I bet you
probably.
I bet you I can find out.
Are we gonna find out?
I am going to find out. But because I'm betting you right now, I'm getting a bunch of shit in Discord popping off, and I bet it's Ed talking.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
no,
just talking his shit.
never mind. It's midget.
No.
Yeah, it's midget.
Oh, is he shit post dumping?
Yeah, you
Yep.
know how he does. You know how he does. Hey, if it helps, I don't even know how I put myself on do not disturb because I'm just always disturbed.
Ha, 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 ha,
Does that
ha,
never
ha,
happen to you? You don't.
ha, ha.
Yeah. So but I figured it was Ed anyway. But sadly it wasn't. So I don't get to down him for that.
Nope. In fact, I think you owe him an apology for
I
assuming that he would troll you like that.
I will apologize to him in person because um,
It's that serious of an offense that
right
you don't want to. Yeah. I mean, you
because
impugned his honor. I mean that
if I
he
do it
couldn't have been killed for less.
if I do it in person, there's a good chance he'll whip his wiener out.
That's true.
If I just do it right here, the Freedom Scoop server, you don't owe me anything. Check the Freedom Scoop server. Oh, what's the
Oh,
name?
he did. He did. Fuck with you.
Chirp, 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 chirp. Yeah, that fucker. But at the same time, it's actually those from Midget B were actually
Oh, there's
before
midget.
8:30.
Oh,
The good show suggestions, cunts.
are they? Oh, that's
I,
where he was. Yeah.
yeah, but he was putting them in general.
Uh, put him in the
I
wrong
was
channels.
I was looking
Like,
at the Cuomo stuff that he was posting. How Cuomo's saying that
yeah.
the stuff's walking out, being taken from hospitals, and Trump says stuff's being stolen, and he's like, "What? What do you mean? What?
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I don't
fucking
understand that shit. I don't understand what you're talking about, uh, dude.
Kokomo.
Dude,
Yeah.
crazy shit going on with this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to tell you two incidents. Okay, well, one's an incident, the other was an article I read. In Texas, they in some locations they are starting to put the word out that they're going to fine people $1,000 if caught outside without a mask on.
Damn. That's not very Lone Star State of them.
Right, and plus on the flip side of that, I'm like, if you needed to go get a fucking surgical mask right now, where would you go?
Yeah, you'd have to have them delivered or something.
Right, where
Ask somebody, perhaps.
does everybody just know someplace to go get them? I mean, Walmart doesn't have them. At least the couple that I'm aware of don't have them. So where are you supposed to get these? And if you're going to make it
Yeah.
mandatory for people to wear masks, bitches, you best be going door to door and handing them out, right? I mean, that just makes good sense. If you're going to run a police state like that, then then you need to supply the fucking masks that you expect people to have
Yeah.
on. What? I can't go out of my house to go get a fucking mask if I don't have any. So if nothing else, when they stop you, they give you a warning and a mask. Now use this mask to go get yourself some fucking masks. Great. Give me a list of fucking places I can go. Where do you have
Yeah.
places set up to distribute masks? Because it's my impression that most masks right now are being funneled to health services. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Um, and what are you gonna? I guess I could go on Wish and order some. They come. They
From China.
right. They had. They now with more. Now with even more coronavirus.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Get your mask and your disease all at the same time. Your virus, excuse me, not a disease. I shouldn't confuse you. Okay, but see, here's the second one, and this one really bothered me. Okay, and this is because it's close to home. My wife dealt with this working at the big box retailer that she does. The police came into her store and they were going through and doing a sweep. Now, to preface, the store had been notified within the last 48 hours that they needed to start keeping the customer count down to, like, I want to say it was something like 30% of the maximum, right?
Yeah, damn.
So police come into the store. Now, one would assume that they would be coming into police how many people are in the store, but they weren't. What they were actually doing is they were there to verify that the employees were maintaining a 6 foot distance from other employees, and
Wow.
went to store management and said, okay, you're violating this. You need to correct this or we're going to start fining you. And the fine starts at $250 or something like that
Yeah.
for your employees not maintaining a 6 foot distance from one another, not customers, each other. And that
Yeah.
was very odd, especially knowing that there are areas of the store. So you have two cash registers. Guess what? It's very highly unlikely that they're 6 foot apart. But on top of that, you've got a big corral of self checkouts, and they have people in there manning those.
Yeah.
Just in case there's an issue with the self checkout. They've got like 10 or 12 of them in there, all in one little pocket, one little corral.
Yeah.
Really, that's what you're policing? Is whether or not the employees are maintaining distance from each other. While at the same time, you've got customers coming up to the employees and just walking right up to them, to putting the employee at the position of, you need to back off. I need you to
Hmm.
step back. We need to maintain a distance. My wife said she's doing this all day long with people because they're just coming right up to you. Um, but but another one, Hobby Lobby. Have you seen anything about Hobby Lobby?
No, I haven't.
Read anything? So
No.
apparently, early on in this, the owner of Hobby Lobby, the CEO, the big wig, whatever, the guy who started it all, Mr. Lobby, he comes out and he says his wife got a message that everything was going to be fine. She got this message directly from God. So God told her everything was going to be fine with this coronavirus and carry on as usual. So he wasn't planning on shutting down or doing anything differently with his business. Now, there are Hobby Lobbies in lots of places that have done essential lockdowns, right? Stay in lockdowns, um, and come to find out, they're opening stores in those areas on some minor premise that they have essential needs, mainly because they carry like candies and some little snack food stuff in there. They're trying to get by on that. But this news insider report was talking, had been reached out to by employees of Hobby Lobby, and basically there were like two or three states where the states were like, they went in and gave them cease and desist and said, no, you can't fucking open. You're not essential. Shut the fuck down. But in these other places, it's like business as usual. They're telling the employees
Yeah.
things like, no, you can't wear a mask nor gloves because it'll make the customers uncomfortable.
They're being
Oh,
told that by who? The managers?
by management getting
Hmm.
direct orders from the top that not to wear gloves and masks because it'll make the customers uncomfortable. Hobby Lobby is attempting to carry on business as usual no matter what any of the directives are saying. Now, you know, say what you will, liberty and all that, but the bottom line is they're trying to circumvent. One of the employees, one person under anonymity that was interviewed said that they had asked management, "What are we supposed to do about the 6 foot rule at the cash registers with the customers?" And they were told by management, "That's something you need to figure out, but the one
Hmm.
thing you can't do is ask the customer to back up."
Wow.
And another one said that they're not really doing anything in the way of cleaning any different than they normally do, but they are parking. They said this employee said at their store they were parking a cart of cleaning supplies by the bathrooms to give the impression that they are keeping it maintained and cleansed.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, thanks, Hobby Lobby. You guys are smoking hot. I mean, that's some crazy shit, right?
Yeah, that's really crazy shit.
And then the irony
Sounds
is,
like they should quit.
right? And then the irony is, a woman came into a Hobby Lobby and she comes up to the register and she's kind of in tears and all upset. And it turns out she's telling the girl, I can't believe they're making you work. I can't believe you're open. I can't, you should quit. Turns out the woman is a nurse. But at the same time, she's in the fucking Hobby Lobby buying a decorative sign for her fucking wall on some of
Mm.
her downtime, telling the girl, I can't believe you guys are open. You should quit. Well, bitch, don't fucking patronize the place if you don't think they should be open, you know?
Right.
But, it's a little ironic shit like that. So Ed says there's a small Hobby Lobby is evil. Hobby Lobby is evil and won't give their trans women employees birth controls. That's a huge thing, right? That's big. That's another mark against them. No, that's fine. There is a small town bar a couple of towns over from where I grew up. After Governor Evers issued the restaurant shutdown, they decided they were going to stay open. They brought people in like a speakeasy and locked the door after them, and the state patrol came in and kicked the door down. Now, see, that's one of those situations where we can act like their rights are being stepped on. However, your rights may be stepped on by the rules that are being put in place, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. That's not protest when you do that. That's breaking the law. you know,
Well, it's
I mean,
still a form of protest.
it is in a way, but
But it's also about staying open. It's also about, surviving. That's what they're trying to do, survive as a business,
right.
trying to survive.
Well, I qualify it less as a form of protest when you intentionally know that you have to be sneaky about what you're doing to get away with it. That's not
Yeah,
so
I mean, they're
much
not
protest
right.
as breaking the rules.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that they're doing it as protest. I'm
Right,
saying
right,
that it would still be a form of protest even though it's illegal.
right.
Like
And
a lot of protests are illegal.
right. And in their
Maybe not
mind
as much in this country, but generally speaking, yeah.
I'm sure that they're thinking this, we'll protest this by being open, but if you want it to be a true protest, open your fucking
Right.
doors. Keep your doors open and blatantly do it until
Yeah.
they come and shut you down. But outside of that, anything else, you're just being sneaky and breaking the rules.
And
Sorry that
even at
sorry
that,
that
if
they're in place, but
if all they do is charge you a fine, I'm sure that your customers would be happy to help you pay that fine
right,
to stay open.
right. But the fine is the first thing. The next time, it's going to be a violation to where they're gonna get in some real trouble if they're not careful.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's easy to transition from a fine to some crazy shit in this kind of climate.
Well, then
Uh,
you have like the landlord of the strip mall or whatever that it's in, or building that it's, unless they own the building outright, you know what I mean? They can get into
right,
some trouble with like the property manager or whatever.
right. Now, see, he says ever sent the state patrol in because the local authorities both told him to get bent. And to be honest with you,
Mm, yeah.
you know, we're we're past the point of being able to say, no, we're not going to do this. We're at the point now where it's like, okay, we need to look at compliance, but we need to look at protesting that compliance in specific ways through our voices, through not so much by deed, because this is going to lead to escalated situations that we don't want, right? Where more rights are going to be stepped on. It's going to become a larger detriment to the community than it's going to be a help. Um, but
I mean, a lot of the time that's what it takes to get people to protest is a martyr. not necessarily that someone's going to die over
Right.
that, but all it takes is the police coming in and shutting down a place completely,
Well,
and more people will speak out about that rather than just kind of like, I don't want to just stay home. You know what I mean? There has to be like an actual injustice, and it will happen, I'm sure.
right. Ed says, "Do you think we'll start to see the rise of the speakeasy again?" No, I mean,
If it continues on, yeah, you will.
what'll
But if it's only like a month or two, you're not really going to see that happen
what's
too
going to
much.
But the problem there is that's going to lead to it's going to be like a game of chess. It's going to be like, okay, you made this move by having, more people are doing the speakeasy stuff. That means we need to step up our game, and we're going to start having checkpoints on roads. We're going to start,
Yeah,
enforcing more of a police state, a tighter lockdown to keep this from happening. When in reality, what
and
really, oh, go
if we're
ahead.
trying to change, the law, show people how, uh, how cruel it can be, how tyrannical it can be. So the more that they do that, the more the average person is going to be more sympathetic towards, the people in the speakeasies or, whatever kind of meeting places are, they're going to be more and more against the state taking power
Right.
like that.
Well, the argument is simply going to be there are so many avenues for people to get together virtually at this point, to where you could full on damn near have a party, right? With a bunch of people. There are options for that. And so that argument will be made. But the other fact is, like I said, these precautions are being put in place. Um, in effect, a lot of people ask for these things to happen, or
Yeah, a lot
expected
of people
these
don't.
things and expected them to happen. But I think Jake from Freedom Scoop, you know, has really pointed out some specific things, and ultimately, it boils down to this: the numbers that we're seeing, not just locally but globally, don't add up to the level we're at. They just don't. Right? We you know we do and we don't want this thing to spread through our society. We need to
Right.
we need to establish a baseline for this if it's going to become an existing virus in our toolkit, right? Like the flu or anything else. Um, but the lockdowns are not working, especially if you're not. I mean, there's no sign that they're going to do anything about interstate flight going on,
Yeah.
or interstate, state to state, whatever. Uh, I'm not sure what is that.
Interstate.
Is it interstate
Yeah.
or
Interstate travel.
intercontinental? Um, well, no, because that includes other parts of the continent. But anyway, they're not. There's no indication that they're going to do that right now. And if you're not going to do that, well, you know, and especially the air. Oh, God, read another article. I love reading articles, but it was an American Airlines flight, and apparently this flight had little to nobody on it. Actually, they had 11 passengers on the flight, and the 11 passengers were all clumped. They put them all clumped together in a group of seats together because they couldn't move them to other parts of the plane because that would have been considered an upgrade. On this empty airplane, seats what, upwards 200 plus people, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But 11 people, and they didn't want, it couldn't spread them out because it would cause, those would cause upgrades.
Oh God.
So
That's kind of ridiculous.
they
Yeah.
all sat in one little section together. And I'm
That's
like,
so stupid.
right? And it's that kind of stupidity that tells you, um, the lockdowns aren't going to make a difference. You look at the numbers in the United States; it's just jumping. It's it's bringing out the stupid in a lot of people. People that are going into stores. The Hobby Lobby, one of the employees said that she had two guys come up, and no matter how much she asked them to keep a distance between them, they kept walking up to her. Every time she would back up, they would walk up to her, and then they were making jokes about coughing and sneezing on her. People are doing stupidity, right?
Yeah.
Just to their own forms of protest, right? Like the woman that goes in and is rubbing all over $35,000 worth of produce and messing around coughing on it all. It's like,
Yeah, that's stupid shit. Yeah.
right, why are you doing these stupid things? I mean, you're just hurting the people around you when you do this. So I've come to the opinion that we need to go ahead and start removing them. Much like Trump talked about by the 15th of April. I know he's put a 30-day lockdown, a 30-day plan in place, but I think 30 days is too long. I don't think it's going to flatten the curve any more than it's already going to. We're not seeing the record numbers in the hospitals that we should be seeing. We should just focus on getting people tested. If people know they have it, they can quarantine. That's your goal. Get people tested.
Yeah.
Um, because there's a lot of confusion. Now the CDC is talking about revamping their stance on masks to where, yes, we're all going to need to start wearing masks when we go places. And I'm like, oh, god damn. Get it together. You know what? You know what? Game
Yeah.
off. Game off. Car, game off. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
it's time to just deal with what's coming. Let it run through. It's going to happen. You know what? Old people, old people. Guess what they are? Most of them are smart enough to stay the fuck in the house. Oh,
Yeah.
and by the way, all of the Florida restrictions that are going on, right? Because we're on a pretty much on a statewide 30-day stay at
Yeah.
home. Guess what? Doesn't apply to fucking church. Church is considered essential. So now
Correct.
there are going to be church gatherings all over the state
Yeah.
going on like normal. Well, guess what? There's going to be a lot of fucking people going to church that don't normally go to church because they got nothing
Yeah.
else to
That's true.
do, and it's a way for them to get out somewhere and socialize with people. Well, fucking hats off to you, Florida governor. Smart move. You just
Yeah.
nullified anything you're doing.
Yeah. It's all about appearances, though. Doesn't matter if it actually helps or not.
And so that's why, and this is not about this is not an argument from me about the sacrificing liberty for security. It's, because when it's all said and done, I don't think that, this is a situation where we're sacrificing liberty for security. It's a strongly worded message that you need to take care of yourself and consider the community around you and not spread a fucking disease. It's just measures that have to be taken to prevent the spread of a virus. And I get it.
You are undoubtedly exchanging liberty for security.
No, it's in my
You
opinion,
are,
it's
though.
good sense.
Absolutely, you are.
It's you're trading liberty for good sense.
That's fantastic. Is good sense mandatory?
Is it mandatory?
Yeah.
Yes, when you're good
When
lack
you're
when your
exchanging
lack of
liberty for
when
a lack of security.
your lack of good sense causes harm to others. Yes.
Yeah,
See,
it can.
that's the thing. This is a situation where we're having to tell people stay at home so you do not harm others. This is not
No, I
about
get
you
it.
not getting sick. It's about you not getting
I
other
get
people
it.
sick, and that's the
I get it. And
problem.
the right thing to do is to stay home. That is the right thing to do. Problem is when it becomes mandatory, then it is exchanging liberty for a false sense of security because you're not any more safe. You're really
If
not.
everybody observed, you would be. Like me, I'm rarely going out.
Who gets your groceries?
I am a much lower threshold for getting the coronavirus.
Who gets your groceries though?
Well, Well, my wife usually brings them home from work, and I was going to say that
And then
she puts me at risk by still having to be at work out in the real world. But if
yeah,
so I get that, but my chances, that's where my risk factor comes in. But my
right. Your chances
chances
are
by
lower,
not
but
going out all the time are
and you
much
wouldn't do that
lower.
anyway, even if you were allowed to, right?
Yeah, I would actually. We would be going shopping on the weekends or in the evenings more. We would go out and run errands and
No, no,
do
no. I'm
things.
saying if there was no like mandatory quarantine, but
Would I be
or
smart
mandatory
enough to stay?
lockdown.
Yes, I would be
Yep.
doing the smart thing and staying home.
There you go.
And this is why I say it's not about creating a sense of security for me. It's about protecting me from other people's stupidity by having the
Yeah,
lockdowns. That protects me. It's kind of like having a gun at home. If I know everybody else is staying at home, then I don't have very much chance at all of getting the virus spread to me. So I see it as a protective measure that is actually beneficial were it to work, were it working. I don't see it as giving me security so much as preventing an alien invasion in my body, this viral invasion.
so but then it is making you more secure,
Do I do I feel safer? No, I don't feel safer by the lockdowns. No.
right? But
If the
you're willing
lockdown,
up to give up liberty for
I
that not feeling any
I'm
safer.
I'm actually, but see, that's for me. It's self-determined, as we established. I would be doing this anyway if the lockdowns weren't in
Yeah,
place. Okay, so I'm establishing my own sense of safety and security. The lockdowns are giving, yes, they give me a sense of safety from other people should they be working properly. If I know that there's not people out running around, um, you know, and I'm not out running around, we're not out sharing things, right? But you can't put that kind of lockdown in place. You just can't do it. You can't shut down all essential services. You can't shut these things down. It's too high of a demand. Nobody's prepared for 4 weeks at home without being able to go to a store and get some shit. And it never fails. If the, I could, the bottom line is, if it's open and because it's essential, people are going to go there under the
yeah.
guise of getting something essential. Yet my wife watches as people walk around all day. Oh, where is
Yeah, they're
this?
out of the house.
Where is this desk at? And where are these? Tell me about, where are these chairs, or where is this
Sure.
DVD, and where is less than they're hearing, where's the toilet paper, where's the where are these
So
essentials I need.
right, so the whole lockdown thing isn't working,
Right.
as you mentioned,
Sure.
but you're still willing up to give up more liberties
I'm not
for
it,
it to not work. It means that you're not even getting that false sense of security that you're exchanging the liberty for. You're just giving
wait
up
wait wait
liberty for the sake of it.
no, John, this is not a situation where I'm willing. I'm not willing. I'm not a willing participant of the lockdown. I am a necessary participant of the lockdown. It's not I no, I'm not willing to be in a lockdown. I'm in a lockdown because there was no other choice in the minds of the people who put the lockdown in place. That's why
And you're fine with it.
it's not that I'm fine with it. I have made my peace with the fact that it's happening. There's nothing I can do to stop it. I can't
You've
stop
made
it
peace
from
with the boot on
happening.
your neck. Yeah.
Then so John, what are you doing to stop it? How can you
I'm
stop it?
still working. Yeah.
You're still working. Is that by
Yeah.
choice?
Yeah, I could quit.
Well, what I'm
I could
saying,
say I'm not feeling well and then not go in.
well, let me ask you this. Does your common sense tell you that the best thing for you to do is stay at home if you don't want to get the virus spread to you, or vis-a-vis
Yeah.
spread the virus, right? You would be
Yeah, I
doing
don't go anywhere other than work.
you
I would
right?
be doing the same thing, yeah.
Okay.
I would have done it later on, later
Okay.
than, uh I probably should have, but I would eventually have gotten, done it.
But you're
Eventually just stayed home.
but you're doing that because it's allowed by the lockdown, right? Um, the the bottom line is, there's nothing we can do to stop the lockdown. There's you and I as citizens, what can we
Yeah,
possibly do to make this stop? So that's the part I've made my peace with. There's nothing I can do to stop it. What I can do, the best I can do, is get on here and say, we need to consider not, so that, and have the discussions so that more
yeah,
people are talking about it and saying, okay, maybe it's time that we stop these lockdowns. You know,
and I'm fine
um,
with doing that. Yeah,
and that's the best we can do. Now, you know, because the bottom line is, whether you like it or not, bitching about the lockdown, it'll have some impact, but it's out of our hands. It's out of our fucking hands. I was like, fuck, I can't believe Trump said 30 more days.
yeah,
Because I was getting myself in place for, maybe 2 more weeks of this, in ending on April 15th, and he extended it
yeah.
full 30 days, and I was like, fuck. Good to see you in the house, Wyatt. Yo, what's up? Why
Hey,
is
what's
there?
up, White?
Who disliked the stream? Somebody
I
dis.
don't know.
Wow.
Someone disliked our YouTube stream. Yeah, I don't know.
Probably because
Probably someone, probably someone who likes to give up liberty for security. This must be it.
is that what it is? Um, so
Must be.
I trust me, John. I don't love it because it stops me. It pretty much stops me from going out to eat with my wife. Right, that whole
Yeah,
thing has changed. Right, there's so no, I'm not for it. Now, early on, I was like, okay, if we want to stop this from going crazy, we need to. You remember me saying we need to initiate full lockdowns, right? Because my very first bitch was these airports are just fucking going like gangbusters still. I called for lockdown to China before they locked down China. You got to lock that shit down. No flights in and out of China, period. At the
yeah.
very beginning of this. And then I said, lock down all flights out of country. Stop them now. And then I said, stop flying planes between states. But they don't do it, right? These so no, it's not working, and it needs to be pulled back. We need to have a shorter frame on this. It's freaking more people out than not,
Yeah,
and I can promise you 30 more days of this. As much as this is going to spread across the country, there are going to be so many more things that we're going to see in protest, in stupidity by law enforcement, stupidity by local and federal government. It's going to be madness in the next 30 days. Some really crazy popped off shit. You know, I mean, it's already started. In Washington, Pelosi is putting together and wanting to put together a group to oversee the fucking coronavirus, this, that, and the other, with subpoena power. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So, in other words, you want to put together an investigative committee to find out who you can truly point the fucking finger at when this
yeah.
is all
That's
said
what
and done.
matters.
And I'm like, are
Yeah.
you fucking kidding me? Here's my question. Are you using stimulus money for that or just taxpayer money? Which one are you going with, Nancy? Which one's paying for that stupidity?
Yeah.
I uh,
Fucking ridiculous.
I think you should be on the lookout for me to. I think I'm planning a video letter to the
Oh
Democratic
shit.
Party, um, in which I'm gonna go ahead and break up with the Democratic Party, John. Um,
Nice.
we're gonna have an official breakup, and it breaks my heart, looking back on my younger years, and remembering what the Democratic Party was like once. Uh, but they've changed so much, and they're just not the party that that I knew so long. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need a moment.
Yeah.
But fuck Nancy Pelosi anyway. So
Yeah.
But anyway, what do we got? We got. Oh, I see Ron Helton has shown up. He says, "Get on the train, citizen." Uh, no, you don't need any change of clothes.
That's
Uh,
right. Not where you're going.
right, Ron. Would that be the train that dude tried to drive into the USNS Mercy? Yes, I read. I saw a headline about that, but I didn't get a chance to read it. I'm curious about that. Uh, Ron says the problem is poor information, no testing, and no certain treatment. Exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
Ron. That's what is doing it all to us. Is just shoddy information. Even the president, he's got to stop doing these coronavirus updates each day. Because he sits there and there's points in time where he'll ad lib and he'll kind of say stupid shit. Um, and it's just like, look, you know, he'll say things that aren't quite on the mark of what like the CDC and the coronavirus team want, information that they want to get out there. It doesn't necessarily jive with what needs to be said. Of course, this is what's, being said about the different things he's saying. But, all right, you know what? You're not going to give us a sense of comfort by being on out there in our face every day. I can promise you, you're not, Donald. You're just not. He's not, right, John? Does it give you any more comfort to know that the president is addressing us every day?
I think it's his best move for him to make. Like, it doesn't comfort me anymore because I don't like I try not to consume propaganda of any kind, and propaganda is not necessarily negative, right? It could be positive as well, which is what this is, right? He's coming out and he's addressing the nation every day and doing acting in your terms very presidential, and that he's uh, trying to keep everyone kind of calm and explain what's happening, communicating with the American people. I think that's probably the best move for him to make, especially since we're in the middle of the campaign season where no one can campaign.
Right, and I,
You
I I won't say that it's not a good idea for him to get out and come on and address the country, but at the same time, maybe 3 times a week. Cut back on it. That way, it's because with him, if he's sitting there each day trying to give updates to the information, that's when his tang gets tangled. That's when his thinking gets off a little, and he throws out the wrong things, and it's better if it's like every 2 or 3 days, to where it can be a little more scripted. There can be some cognizant numbers and statistics to put forward that have changed over 3 day period, etc., as opposed to him being in situations where he's got to ad lib. He doesn't do well with ad lib. Not
No, he doesn't.
he, he's
But
he
I
sticks his
I
foot in
think
his mouth.
dropping it. Yeah, he does. But still, even with that, um, no, I think dropping it back to like 3 days or something allows too much time for the 24-hour news cycle to kind of roll over what he's saying, if that makes sense.
Well, right, but it
When new
also
developments will happen, it's not coming from the White House.
right,
You
but
know what I'm saying?
but if that's the case, if he comes out every 3 days, for instance, he comes out, he speaks, they'll run it into the ground for one day, but then you'll have a little bit anywhere from a 24 to 48 hour buffer where it lulls down. This way, he's giving them fodder every single day, something to pick apart and derail in the media.
Right.
It's a catch 22, I'm sure, but
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to win either way, so he might as
right.
well like be in everyone's face, leading basically.
Orange man bad. Corona man virus.
Yeah, Orange Man must be bad. It's true.
Uh, Wyatt says the economy is suffering, will take a long time to recover. Absolutely, and that's not just
Yeah.
the national economy. This is going to be a global hit that is going to be very hard to bounce back from. But on the flip side, it's possible that this could be an economic reset as well. That's a possible hope, right? That we can have some equanimity come back into the market as it's rebuilt. I don't know. Probably not. Ron says, so at what point do they call this grab for power off when the suicide rate outpaces the death by virus? I would argue that the suicide rate has probably outpaced the. There have been more deaths associated with the coronavirus than the coronavirus has actually caused. To be, in my opinion, I bet there. Yeah, when you look at it from a global perspective, because people are doing stupid shit all over the world. I mean, a bunch of fucking people died in Iran because they read some bullshit, uh, you know, conspiracy shit that this was some alcohol. One was alcohol, that they could drink alcohol, like rubbing alcohol. So a bunch of them died doing that.
Nice.
And then this poison, it was put out there that this poison could uh, stop the effects of the coronavirus. So a bunch of them fucking died from doing that too. It's like, okay,
Talking about the chloroquine or whatever the fuck.
something like that. Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
drugs or
So
something.
I remember. Yeah, I remember hearing one of the stories that it was someone who drank like chloroquine phosphate or something like that, instead of hydrochloroquine, which was what they were talking about before.
Right,
And so, of course, they died because that's basically it was like fish tank oil or something, or fish tank cleaner or something
right.
was the
So
phosphate, and that was deadly, obviously.
so misinformation has probably killed more people than the
Right, in the
coronavirus
actual,
has.
yeah,
Right,
probably.
whether it be stupidity or whether it be suicide. Oh my God, I can't live through something like this. Um, so
Yeah,
it's interesting. It says people losing their jobs, being evicted, and having to live on the street. How is that going to bring the virus under control? I will say can't evict anybody, so there is that upside. Now, if people are letting themselves be evicted, it's because they're just not keeping up with the information, the things that are coming out from state and local governments as well as the federal government. Because I read an article where one woman was basically her landlord raised her rent, which she could get away with, but was also, kind of putting her in an eviction stance. And she's like, oh, yeah, but don't worry, it's okay because fortunately the governor and the president said you can't evict me. So I'll let what my plans are in the future. But none of it is gonna people losing their jobs and shit. No, none of it is. I honestly I spit on any company that's actually firing their employees. Or I was. Now it's kind of a fair trade off because it's possible people can get more from unemployment than they were actually getting from their job.
right.
Just putting it out there. But it says oh, wait, is it who suffering? Oh, Pelosi. No, she's too slender for me. See, and it's sad that it's her slenderness that's off-putting and not that face. Uh,
Right.
he says, tighten it up, you whiny little bitch." I was laughing too hard when I typed it the first time. Ed says it makes me comfy as fuzzy pajamas. I'm sure he's talking about all the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Helton says we need real information, not political pandering. It is, whoa, jumping. It's hard to trust anything the government says at this point. They have LE. They have. Oh, I thought he was saying they have LED.
LEDs.
They have lied to us about everything. Sorry, my vision is whacking on me. Ed says, Ron, you must put your faith in Messiah Trump. Oh, of course,
That's
Messiah
right.
Trump. Pitching 500 billion dollars to placate the peasants while they do TARP 2 is a huge slap in the face. Let the economy reboot. Yeah, sad to say again, they put themselves in a position where they have no choice but to give people money. I mean, it's like it's kind of like
Yeah.
they didn't want to dry fuck us, so they was like, here's a little bit of lube, we'll spit on it. Um,
Yeah.
Uh, Ed says, how many times should I come out? Wait, Ed's coming out?
Yeah. I guess so.
Nice. Cuomo is even worse. These leaders need to stop making everything worse, which they are. But
Yeah.
of course, it's a tough position to be in because you've got multiple
Yeah.
sources giving you projected statistics of what's going to happen in your state. This is science. This is
Well,
what
not only
science
that,
and the
but
numbers says is going to happen.
you have to look at them, you know, uh, politically. They're just saying, "Hey, you guys can do whatever you want," and not that I agree with any of this. I'm just saying that from their position, they're just like, "We're not going to take any precautions." then they're going to be seen as doing nothing and being part of the
Right,
problem, and so they're kind
right.
of forced in a way to take a position to do something about it, even if they wouldn't want to, or even if it's not the right thing to do, which is very unfortunate that it's that way.
It is, and it's this is one of those situations where you have to ask yourself, I get it that first off, I get it that the panic was a lot of the panic was created by the media, right?
Yeah,
Uh, but this is a lot of this has got to be attributed to the will of the people. You know, I mean,
yeah,
there are large portions of the population that are out there asking for this, asking for
yeah.
these kind of lockdowns, asking for the government to do something to stop this. That's what they're looking towards. And it's like, okay, well, this goes back to your common sense, fucks. Is the bottom line is if you want your government to do something for you, fine. But that's you saying I'm not capable of doing the smart thing myself. I'm not capable of accepting guidelines and following good advice. I need someone to enforce that good advice. And that's where it's at. That's what these governors and these officials are having to deal with is a populace that is, not self-reliant enough to do it themselves. And they don't and not trusting enough of the rest of the community also to be self-reliant enough to do the smart thing, to have that common sense. It's a catch 22. Those two arguments coming at you. What do you do? How do you not institute some harsh measures? um, Ed says,
yeah. I mean, I get it. Yeah,
one of the things that's bothered me the worst about this is the fact that this all showed up almost exactly at the same time that gas hit 93 cents a gallon.
shit. I don't know where you're at. That is 93 cents a gallon, but
Right. And
but not
and
around here.
here we're getting excited because it's hitting the 170s and 180s.
Yeah.
It's, but still, we could sit around and look for conspiracies in it all. That's everybody is all about the time, because there's also this new conspiracy, or this trying to build this conspiracy that this is coincidentally at the same time as they're rolling out the 5G network. Oh my God, they're poisoning us with the
I
5G
know.
network. Hold on, your cell phone can't give you a respiratory virus. I'm sorry, that's just not a thing it's equipped to do. That's not part of the bloatware on your phone. Um, so, because I remember early on in this, somebody had posted something on Twitter where it was a picture of some guys working on a tower, and they're like, "See," and they're out there, they're making everybody stay at home. They're out there working on the 5G network, getting it in.
That was in
No
our Discord server too.
yeah, no shit. When do you think people would go out?
Yeah, that's the perfect time to
This is
do like road work and
great,
stuff.
right? We don't have to
Yeah,
try and worry about all the traffic and bullshit that goes
that's
on.
why Tenchi and I were joking about it the other day that they should just go to complete lockdown and just like fix I-4 just completely while everyone's at home.
But see,
Just work nonstop and just fix I-4 the whole thing.
and Ed says a stay-at-home order right about the time it would be the best for people to start driving on vacation and patronizing all these little restaurants and businesses and stuff. I get that, but think about it. This, there's no way it could have come from the top, because there's no way that our president would not have seen the economic punch in the fucking nuts this would cause. He's nothing but all about getting more people employed, and more economy, better economy, bigger stock market. There's no way it had to come from the top. Now, if you have some nefarious individuals on hand that might have done this, been able to pull some shit like this off, I tell me who it is. But I honestly believe that this is just an unfortunate response that was predicated by dastardly, disorganized information coming out that created a panic and created the need for this to happen. And if we want to look at any kind of culprit, it's the mainstream media. Now, is there
Hmm.
some targeted plan by the mainstream media and the Democrats to target the economy by creating a panic that would then force these lockdowns to ensue? I don't know. Is that possible, John? Is there that much 4D chess available
Um,
on
I
the
think it's more, if anything, more believable would be the taking advantage of the fact that it's affecting the economy more than that being the actual plan from the beginning.
right?
I think this is, yeah, it's just opportunists, not necessarily creating the problem.
Yeah, it's like Ron says, the Russians and the Saudis are in a production war, and they are, but they've also come to they've reached some sort of agreement. It may still be in the works, but I saw something alluding to it. I read about half the article. It was a TLDR, but they're reaching an agreement on how they're going to proceed to where they can kind of bring a balance to the oil pricing and everything that's going on, the production overloads, this, that, and the other, where the Saudis are like actually going to talking about it and reaching an agreement to where, you know, maybe we won't have such great oil prices. But now, one thing Helton said, he says, but not all governors have said that about no evictions. And I understand that, but the first person to say something about evictions and foreclosures came from the administration, and they put a lockdown on that shit very early on. And I give Trump props to that. As soon as lockdown started happening, he put out a federal, basically an executive order. I don't know if I think he signed it in one of the different legislation. There's you can't do evictions and lockdowns. It's a federal mandate for no foreclosures, no evictions. This is not supposed to be happening right now in any state. Um, Health says maybe they can't be evicted, but they will still owe that rent, just like the property owners will still owe the banks. And yes, that is true.
Mhm.
But now they have also, for mortgages, they have also instructed mortgage lending companies to be forgiving. And yes, you'll still owe the money, but basically, kind of what they're doing is they're back ending it, which is not necessarily good because it will cost you more in the long run, where they're back ending those payments as deferred payments to where they're
Mhm.
they're bubbled at the end or they're drawn out at the end of the loan, etc. So yeah, it's not a perfect scenario, but at least people aren't being kicked out of their houses or not
Yeah.
supposed to be, right? Uh, Wyatt said that's why my live stream was canceled. Was called Stuck and Confused. Yeah, it's all yeah. That's where it is. Uh, Ron says he has an urge to dig for diamonds and gold. Sounds like somebody wants to play Minecraft. Um, Ed says, I'm just saying, if this would have happened under Obama last week, a cop would have shot an unarmed black man. Wow, that's leave it to Ed. I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder if he whipped his wiener out when he typed that in. Uh, Cameron Michael in the house saying there's too many humans on the planet anyway.
Yeah,
There's You know what?
that's
There's
some
there's really
BS,
not.
dude.
The problem is not the
Yeah,
amount of humans on the planet. It's that we're all fucking clumped up. We don't
yeah,
spread out. Do you know how many people this planet could support if we would just spread the fuck out?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
insane.
but I mean, I get why. I mean, cities are cities for a reason, right? They're in strategic locations, are the best places to be, for like resource wise. Usually, at least that's where they're founded, right? And then of course smaller towns around them, but to accommodate the mass amount of people because
Uh,
they're moving there because there's resources there. I mean, that's kind of
sh- that is your nice way of saying people are fucking lazy. Fucking
yeah.
fucking. You know what? Fucking drive 30 minutes somewhere. And trust me, if you spread the population out, the resource centers are going to spread out. The distribution of resource centers are going to spread out just as well as anything else. It will,
Distribution of resource centers,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it will happen. So fucking spread out. Quit living. I mean, think of how many people live just on Manhattan Island alone.
Oh
It's just
yeah.
fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's like a mile long. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Spread the fuck out. That's
Yeah.
how you keep shit like this from going crazy in this country. That's why you have to have a fucking lockdown because you have so many people so densely compacted. It's just fucking insane. Come on.
Yeah.
So, But this is doing great things for our environment. I'm just saying. With all the production that has gone down around the world,
Right,
there's
I've seen those memes too. Yeah.
there's it's not just memes. I mean, there's data being put out there that is showing declines in areas. Like they showed aerial
I mean, sure.
shots of China, the decrease in pollution just over China during their high points of this shit going on, greatly diminished. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's helping the environment. I'm not going to lie and say it's not. If it's hurting the environment and it's lessened, guess what? That's helping. So I don't know. But is it worth having to stay at home for another fucking month? God, no. Hell no. Ah, let the planet burn up. I'm just kidding. I don't want the planet to burn up till I'm dead. Whatever happens after I'm dead, carry on, bitches. Right? We should be worried about other things. I mean, I've seen an article. Apparently, there's an asteroid headed almost right for us. Like just one.
Yeah, there's one of those like every year.
Well, this one, and this is one of those that's going to be passing just like real close. In that window, that extreme danger window, as it were, where one good solar breeze will push it into us, kind of thing, or one stray rock bounces off of it. But I'm like, well, shouldn't we do something about that? Let's get the nukes ready. Let's blow up a fucking asteroid before it wipes
No,
out the fucking world. Come on.
we'll just send all the coronavirus infected people there to the comet, and then but send them all to one side so that their weight will kind of push it away from the Earth, and then we solve two problems with one solution.
Now, see, Helton points out that Ronald, I almost said Ronald Reagan. Uh,
Wow.
well, because he's Ron Helton, and I was getting ready to read a president's name. But he said Obama didn't call for shutting down the country for the H1N1, which infected 50 to 75 million people, which he was one of, and killed over 12,000 people. Yeah, it's the numbers aren't adding up globally for me in comparable numbers to other things that consistently run around like the flu, etc. It's not. When they were talking about over 1 million people infected worldwide, and I was like, so you're telling me that so far with all this madness that's gone on, only a little over 1 million people in the world, 7.35 billion people, only 1 million people have been infected with this.
Yeah.
That is such a small percentage. And I get it.
Yep.
It's going to get worse. More people are going to be infected. I get it. But when you look at stuff like the H1N1, right? I mean, how do you disseminate that as a leader and decide what you're going to do? That's where my mind always comes back to is, how do you do that? When you look at the virus, it was in the 1918. What was the name of the virus that was that H1N1 again? Or whatever virus that was, swine flu, I forget.
Probably. Yeah, swine flu was H1N1.
And that was the one where the Navy held they held a big parade. There was a big military parade in Philadelphia, and during this, not they didn't call it off, even though they were advised to, and they didn't, knowing that there were infected soldiers going into that parade, that presentation, and it turns out that that location was the biggest hotspot in the country for the infection.
Yeah.
Then you have the same thing when they were talking about churches here in Florida being open. They pointed out that in France has attributed the explosion of their virus to a big religious event that went on there, and that spread the virus in large numbers and caused the outright
Yeah.
infection throughout their country. So you look at it and you say, okay, well, how do you say, okay, well, then it's a good idea to do something, but the numbers aren't the realistic numbers that are happening aren't justifying it. But then there's the speculative numbers that we're being presented with that we have to make fucking nightmare decisions that have to be made. It's crazy. I feel no joy or jubilation for any decisions that any elected official is having to make right now, except
Yeah.
when it's stupid shit like Nancy Pelosi is doing. The Democrats, anybody that wants to sit there and turn this into a political issue, because it's just constant. Who do we point the finger at, and who said what that we can turn over and turn into some shitty stuff, and who's lying to us, and who's just, oh God. And what are they sneaking into these bills? you know, what
Yeah,
kind
that's
of,
the worst part.
yeah, like Helton said, what are they backdooring us with? Uh, I love it. Why interest sucks. Yeah, interest. But
It
fortunately,
does.
you could actually take out a loan probably at almost no interest right now, which will cost and pay off, pay 2 or 3 months worth of your rent, which will be less interest than you'll accrue for back ending it on your rent cycle or owing it at the end with interest, etc. Um, Ed says my wiener. Ed's wiener's been out this whole time. That's good to know. Ron says we need a warmer planet. Yes, a good thing they did talk about that humidity, a higher humidity level as we start to warm up, is hopefully going to play a stronger factor in this, because again they're attributing it to similarities in the regular flu virus that we have, where it's much more likely to spread in cold, dry weather. Well, in warm, dry weather, because we bring it in from the outside and we're all huddled up inside during cold weather. So we are in an environment where we're passing the flu or colds back and forth to each other because we're all sequestering inside. Plus, the air is drier during the winter. But humid weather here in Florida might be a positive impact for us in regard to this as we carry on. Um, but yes, a warmer planet would help in all of this, I think. Serious question. Who asked a serious question?
It does.
Says which my Obama quip was serious. I can agree. Do you think that telecommuting becomes a permanent thing? I have speculated on this, that I think that we're going to see a shift in a lot of how a lot of companies do business. I think that a lot of companies will see the benefits of not having the overhead of such a large office. I mean, if you found out that 50% of your workforce could literally do all of their work from home, you could
Yep.
cut the size of your facility in half.
I think you're going to see some people doing that.
Sure.
I think a lot of people will go back to traditional, face to face,
Well,
come into work.
well, well,
Not because they don't see the benefit, but just because people are not easy to change, especially big corporations. They're not going to change much.
sure,
Um,
but
but
but surprisingly enough, what they're finding out right now is how
yeah,
they're making the transition. They're already doing the hard part, right?
yeah,
They're being forced into a position where they're doing the hard part of setting up the infrastructure to do this. And one thing I will know from having telecommuted for work for with a company as a W-2 for 3 years, um, is that it evolves. Your ability to communicate and the avenues by which you do so evolves and gets better as you find more stable environments to telecommute through, et cetera, et cetera. You find out that you don't really have to have as much communication and dialogue with your employees when it's readily on tap, because it's a lot different when you're in an office environment. You got to walk out and go to somebody or pick up a phone and
yeah,
dial somebody. Things like Slack have been making the work environment more virtual already. So a lot of the pieces
yeah.
were in place. Now they're being implemented. I think you will find that a lot of companies, it's not going to be on the employees so much to make that decision. Companies going to say, hey, guess what? Your position is not going to change, except you're not going to come into the office anymore.
Right. No,
We're
I,
going to
I
make this permanent.
understand.
So much less liability
I
for the company.
I understand. Yeah, yeah. All I'm saying is that I think you're gonna find it like not as many people as you think are going to switch over,
I
even though
will
they could, even though it's a better idea.
I
You
will
know, I
agree.
think you're still gonna find a lot of people not doing that.
I will agree to disagree with you on this one, only from the aspect that not only the things that I've mentioned, but when I mentioned liability, surprisingly enough, insurance is more
Yeah,
for employees is more affordable this way. There's a lot of advantages that they're going to find that I think is going to make the number higher than you might speculate. Maybe not as high as I speculate, but I do, Ed, think that a lot more of this is going to happen. I do believe that the crowdsourcing, the freelancer market is going to see an explosion. A lot of people are
yeah,
going to realize I don't have to go back to work at this job because I can make just as much money doing the same thing online with another company or with as a freelancer, not even as a W-2 employee. I think you'll see a lot more of that too because now people are sitting at home looking for avenues with which they can make money online, you know. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a very interesting dynamic in the workforce in about six,
yeah.
depending on how long this goes on. If they pull the plug on it, if they had pulled the plug on it, say by the 15th of April, no, I wouldn't expect much change to happen. People would be like, okay, I'm up, I'm out, I'm going back to work, and companies would be bringing people, the bulk of their employees back in the office. But the longer this goes on, it's going to become more permanent for a lot of places. Uh, there's also who was it next up? Ed, follow up. Do you think that changes the perception of the nuclear family? Does whew, I think this is going to. I almost worry that this might have more of a negative impact on our family dynamics. Here's an example. In was it Denmark, Norway? I want to say it was one of those two countries. It may have been another. Reading an article, they have banned alcohol in the country.
Oh, Greenland, I think it was.
Was it Greenland? Because
I
they
think
saw
so.
a spike in
Yeah, no
domestic
shit.
violence.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, they saw a spike in domestic violence going on. They're even to the extent that they're creating they created an app that you can download that it won't require that you call the police so much as you can just hit a button on your device and it will let an alert out that you're in the middle of a domestic violence situation. So they
Mm,
stopped alcohol because they equated that with an increase in domestic violence because people are being forced to stay at home, and now you know they're being trapped at home with their abuser, and so it's escalating
right.
much more quickly and more dramatically. Uh, but carrying on, I have not heard any trajectories on it. It is in the region of the Big Dipper at night, headed this way. What?
The
Oh,
comet or
Comet
the
Atlas. No, and it
yeah.
wasn't even the comet that I'm talking about. There's an asteroid out there which's got one of these fucked up names that's numbers and letters that's flying by. It's I don't it's not the comet that they were talking about. That's the one that this was just another asteroid warning. And I was really being more, sarcastic than anything that we're not,
Yeah.
losing our minds about the potential asteroid if, seeing as how we lost our mind over this. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Helton says my mom named me after Reagan. See, I wasn't far off the mark there. Good president to name a son after. It's not a bad president at all. I give mad props to a Republican when it's due. I think Reagan, in a lot of ways, was a good president. There were a few things where he was lacking. He's very much like Donald Trump to me, except he wasn't the Twitter idiot that Trump is. Um,
Well, only because he didn't have the opportunity,
Well,
I
other
suppose.
other presidents have had the opportunity and they weren't. Obama could have been a big Twitter idiot
Um.
if he wanted to.
Well, he was like, it was exciting because he was the first president with a
Sure.
BlackBerry or whatever.
Yeah, there was that.
So, yeah. I don't know.
Um, anyway, 1918 was the swine flu. Yes.
It was
Um,
another swine flu. Yeah.
Yeah, he says the government. Helton says the government are fucking psychopaths. He's a 37-year-old woman arrested for not social distancing, placed in a cell
Yeah,
for 36 hours with 2 dozen other women. See, there's the insanity. Oh, you're not keeping yourself away from other people. Well, we're going to put you in jail around a bunch of other people.
a bunch of other people. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
He says the government must be dissolved at all levels. They're just a bunch of lunatics. Yeah, dissolve it, but I can. No matter what you do, you can get rid of the government. I've said this before. Someone within your community is going to take control, and you're going to have two choices: either get the fuck out and go find some place to be by yourself, because everywhere there's a community, somebody's going to set themselves up as a leader, and I can promise you, they're going to be much more selfish than, well, or equally as selfish as our governments are. I mean, it's all about the power, right? Power goes to your head, and there's always going to be a desire for more power with anybody who sets themselves up in leadership role.
Yeah.
I believe you said that plenty of times, right, John?
Oh yeah.
He says sheriffs and common law courts. Well, that would be great, but I mean, the
It
populace,
would be great, but
you
that's not
can't.
how. Yeah.
Population size doesn't justify that kind of mindset anymore either. I mean, you really can't have that. I mean, could you imagine what the court systems would be like if it was just all common law court? I mean, especially in this day and age, my neighbor's dog shit on my lawn. Citizens arrest! Citizens
Yeah.
arrest! Get the sheriff! Get the
Now, Ron
fucking
Hutton does make
sheriff!
a good point here about what you were saying, where you said it's easier to take out single tyrants than a large government. That's true. Um, the problem is when people like that single tyrant.
Or follow blindly.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, there's people that follow out of agreement. They're not following blindly. They're following out of misguided,
Yeah,
maybe out of
like you said.
misguided loyalty. But other people are just, oh, okay, there's somebody in charge. Do what they say.
Yeah,
They're
the thing
sheeple.
is that kind of thing would take way too much of a change in human nature, or at least how we see it now, how we see government now. It would take that change in perspective,
Yeah.
and I think you're going to find a hard time doing that.
So Ed says he was thinking about the long term when he asked about the nuclear family. I understand some of the issues of the short term. For the long term, I will say this. Yeah, it could have a positive impact on the nuclear family in the long term as people find that, hey, my kids can get their education from home. And I can be more hands on with them and I can work from home. That's the big key. Can you function inside your home as a unit? That'll be the big teller. I think a lot of people can. This is, but this goes back to that argument about why I was the part of me that was in support of the UBI by Andrew Yang was that it would help solidify the nuclear family. If there's a viable option to have parenting at home, yeah, and this may have some of that impact. I know there's going to be a lot of people, not companies, but there's going to be a lot of people that are like, why the fuck do I want to go back into my office? Why do I want to spend money, drive time and money driving 30 minutes to work and 30 minutes home and dealing with traffic and headaches? Obviously, I can do all this shit right here. I don't want to go back to my office. Fuck them, you know? Um,
Yeah,
you
and then
know,
we're one step closer to being like the people in Wally, where
right,
they're all like massively fat and in like hover chairs.
right. And, I will say this. I believe that what will happen from this is I believe a lot more parents are going to have their eyes opened to just exactly what parenting their children are getting in these away places they've been going to all the time. Because they're going to have to like see the behavior and the result of that, all that time at daycare, all that time at school,
Yeah.
after school daycare, those 8, 10, 12 hours that kids spend under somebody else's governance, giving them, a broader spectrum rule that's much more PC and whatever the case may be, I think that's going to be very eye opening for some parents, or hopefully it will be. Um, uh, it says, that's what he's talking about. Whether or not daycare might become a thing of the past. It would be nice to see that. It would
Yeah,
be nice to see it. Uh, Helton points out that Reagan was known as the great communicatora. I think he meant communicator because he's not speaking
yeah.
Italian. But yes, he was the great communicator because the man could talk. He did enough. He did enough on-screen
Yeah,
monologues, I guess. That's the difference between a reality star actor and a reality show star and a movie star. Maybe is how they deliver things. In a reality show, you just get to be more loose cannon. I'm sure Trump was
yeah.
like, I will fucking ad lib anything I want during this goddamn show. Uh, but Helton says it's easier to take out single tyrants, like John said. That's true, but or is it? It's crazy. I don't know.
I mean, it is easier than a large government.
Uh,
Um, but then he says, they can't follow a local tyrant if somebody puts a round through his head.
sure,
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, the definition of tyrant is going to be different for most people.
right,
With few exceptions, if you're just going around wantonly killing people, then yeah, people
right,
are going to generally agree that that's tyrannical. But if they're just implementing policies that you don't like, it's not necessarily tyrannical, and that's things that other people might like. It
right.
gets more complicated than just black and white. You're a good person or you're a tyrant.
Right, because there's a very fine line between, a majority of the community agreeing with whoever this so-called tyrant, what they
I'm not
say.
even talking about a majority, though.
Okay, hold on.
I'm just saying in general, yeah.
In general, if the bulk of the people that he's leading agree with him, that small percentage that sees him as a tyrant, that's the fine line between taking out a tyrant and being John Wilkes Booth, right? I mean, there's a very fine distinction there. You know, there's a lot of people that think that our government is tyrannical, but you know, one round to the head is not the way to solve it. It won't solve anything. It just makes you a bad guy. you
Well,
know,
also, no, not even a bad guy. It just what it does is it causes a power vacuum unless you have someone immediately to step up in
sure.
that place. And then there's going to be the people who liked that tyrant who are resentful for the fact that you just assassinated him.
Mhm.
You're going to have civil strife constantly if you just off anyone who makes a mistake or anyone who um, might even just appear a little heavy-handed.
Right? Because
Because there is one thing that, like, if there is a redeeming quality to government, it is that it puts everyone under one rule, and you all agree that that thing it creates order, basically.
right,
Um, that is one redeeming quality. It's however the cost that that order comes to is why government needs to be limited and needs to be
sure,
held accountable. So when you have it something like this, where it's very small and some people agree that he's a tyrant, some people don't. You're just gonna have inner strife, and it's just gonna be never-ending assassinations. I mean, look at what happens in like those third world countries, whether it be South America or and Africa. They switch. A new warlord is in charge all the time, or a new faction of something are in charge, and then there's always one that rises up against them, and they, regardless of whether our CIA helps or not, that kind of thing is happening.
right,
There's still one group trying to depose the other. And it's because they don't have an agreement on who the leader is,
right,
and they just off the guy as soon as they don't like him.
right.
So unless you want to live like that, that system just doesn't. Just
There,
it's not good for
there,
it doesn't scale up. I guess it doesn't scale to the size of our nation and what our values are.
the bottom line is there's no system that's going to work for everybody. There is none.
Right? There's no perfect system. Yeah.
Everybody will. There's always going to be somebody that sees any government as tyrannical, no matter how they do it. I mean, there were people, I'm sure there were people when we first started, when we were much more liberty minded and much more of a republic than a democracy, that people still saw it as tyranny. You know,
Oh yeah.
there's always going to be that little faction. But and I have to point something. Helton, I guess John Wilkes Booth jumped to my mind because when I think of, killing a president, that's the first thing. I should have probably said John Hinckley Jr. That would have been more relevant. I understand that Lincoln can some people hold him responsible for the Civil War and all of that. And okay, that not a good example. I'll say John Hinckley Jr. But he didn't kill the president, but still. Um, but I will say this: usually, the person that puts the bullet in the tyrant's head is the next tyrant that wants to be in charge. That's typically what always happens. Whoever takes out leadership in that, it takes out a tyrant in that way, is just another tyrant looking to set themselves up in power,
Right,
or
exactly. And so
that's what they
I'm not
become.
doing an argument from authority either, Ron Hilton. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that we need a big government. I'm saying that if there is a benefit to it, the cause of order and not murdering each other in the streets for to gain power is one of those things. Um, Again, I want the government to be as small as possible, but I do want it to be there.
Right.
So well, because hang on, there was another thing I wanted to address. So the guy who shot Lincoln, who caused the death of over 660,000 people, was not a bad person. That's not what I was saying, right? Um, and even so, I mean, who is a good guy and who is a bad guy is all relative. It's subjective to the person and to their own values. So yes, I would agree that he was probably, not as bad. I'm talking about John Wilkes Booth is not as bad as people would say, although he did kill, the president, and so obviously he's going to be marked as a bad guy forever. And I don't think that he didn't save any more lives. I think by killing Lincoln, because the war was already over. So it's not like it was some kind of move to let the South win or something, or to end the war. It wasn't. He wasn't there for some kind of great cause, really. Um, the whole thing with Lincoln, that could be its own stream all on its own. Um, so maybe we'll do something like that. Maybe I'll do something like that with the thinking out loud with John, which I need to do. Um, Booth killed a tyrant. The title was not important. I mean, okay, yeah, you might think he's tyrannical, and I would tend to agree.
Well, Booth thought
But
so.
yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that. Lincoln was not like some kind of saint
Sure.
that could do no wrong.
But
There's a lot of things that he did that were absolutely terrible. We just don't remember him that way because the North won.
the bulk of the
Um,
population didn't wish him dead. I mean,
right? Yeah, I mean that's definitely true. But no, I mean, so I'm not trying to argue that tyrants should live or that tyrants should be in charge or anything like that. I was just saying about how all someone has to do is declare that someone's a tyrant, someone that's in your little local,
right,
government, and then boom, he's gone, and the next guy's up, and then he's a tyrant, and then boom, the next guy. So
right,
it would be a never-ending cycle of John Wilkes Booth or John Hinckley.
right.
Um, it would just be endless, and there would be no point to having it. So why not just go straight to anarchy?
Um,
I
it,
agree, Ron Helton. If the states were free to join the union, they should have been free to leave. Otherwise, one cannot say that the system protects freedom. I agree. I've said that plenty of times before on this show that if a state wants to secede from the union, they should be able to, but they should expect no help from the U.S. from the rest of the states.
well, when it all comes down, and you make a good point with you can kill one tyrant, but somebody's going to call the next guy a tyrant, and the guy after him, somebody will,
Hmm.
because the bottom line is this. I'm a firm believer in this. You cannot have a society of people that functions properly without some level of authority in place. There must be authority. Now, we you can try and boil it down to a sheriff of a town, or sheriffs in a big city, which seems astronomical to me that you could, the larger the city gets, you have to increase the amount of authority and leadership that's there, because people have to be led. The bulk of
Mm.
the population are followers, not leaders. And if left to their own devices, they will not make smart decisions. They will do selfish things. They will do things that are not conducive to the betterment of
Well,
the
hang on,
community.
because that is a bit too much when it comes
Bullshit. Tell me
to
somewhere where
why.
it
No,
works.
well, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that's not why there's authority there.
I'm not.
It's not there to
Yes.
make sure that you make good decisions. It's not there to make sure that you're not
No, no, I
selfish.
didn't,
It's
and
not
I didn't,
there.
and nobody said that. What I'm saying is you have to have somebody there to fucking police all the idiots. You've got to have somebody to police the idiocy in
No,
in a large population. Somebody's got to
what
be in
they're there
charge.
for, what they should be there for, is just to make sure that your rights are not being violated by somebody else. To be an
Yes,
impartial
to
third
police it.
party on in disputes between two
Sure,
citizens or more.
sure. Because if you leave the dumbasses to their own devices, they'll pull out fucking guns and shoot each other dead.
Right, that's probably true.
Right, and that's not a society I want to live in, where it's like the fantastical creations of the old west, the old westerns, what the way they tried to portray the old west. I don't want a society where there's not somebody putting down some law that says you people keep your shit together under punishment of law. That's important to me because it keeps less crazy from happening. Because I mean, it's great that there's a lot of people that would, that idea that an armed society is a polite society. Yes, there are a lot of people that would be very responsible and just carry a gun for their own protection and never pull it out of the fucking holster for anything but target practice. But there's going to be quite a few people out there that are just like, got me a gun. Ain't gonna nobody tell me. I get to solve my own problems. Bang, 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 bang. And do
And they'll
sti-
get killed
Well,
by
will
everyone
they?
else around them who
Will
has a
they?
gun.
Will they? Or will
Yeah,
they go?
everyone else around them
It,
that has a gun.
the
Yeah.
hope is there, unless they do it in the middle of the night and break into somebody's house and just kill off a bunch of people that they don't like, or the family of this people they don't fucking like. I mean, it's just the lunacy that would happen in any society with no leadership, no authority. It's insane. You cannot diminish authority down to such a minuscule level and expect it to govern such large populances. You cannot. We need some authority there to not necessarily to regulate, but to solve these issues and problems that we are
Right, to
inevitably going to
guarantee people
create.
their rights. Yeah.
Right. Because we're not civilized enough to guarantee those rights to our to the rest of the people out there. I can't. I'm not going to. I'm not the person to guarantee your rights. You know, to protect your rights, or I'm just not, because I'm a dumb fucking citizen that's going to be selfish and into my own needs and my own wants and my own desires. So I'm going to step on other people's toes constantly if I don't have somebody telling me, don't step on fucking people's toes, because this is what happens. You know, I, I don't know. People don't like authority, and I get it. But as if any amount of authority is going to seem tyrannical to somebody, somebody is
Yeah.
going to bitch
No, it will. Yeah, absolutely.
all the time. Helton says, he says, think about it. We have had many illegal wars since World War I, World War II, and none of the leaders of this country were held accountable. That's because they're not deemed illegal by
Yeah.
by the government. And I get that. That there are factions of the people that say that they were illegal wars or they weren't just. But that's the catch-22. Yeah, I don't agree with it, and I don't believe in these pointless wars and these made up wars, as it were. Um, but sadly, we're only left with certain ways that we can impact this. And I think that that's becoming easier. That's the benefit of social media, is that the outcry is much louder now, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it's also much easier for that loudness to let the mainstream media spin it and create crazy bullshit from it too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
weird. It's a tangled mess, but hopefully it's going to start allowing our voices to be heard more. Um, it's got to be from the vocal majority, not the vocal minority. That's the thing, like all this SJW bullshit and trying to make the world a more PC place. Um, he says, had the U.S. lost any of those wars, then there would have been trials here for the leaders. Potentially there would have been. But we're so fucking hopped up on our own self
Oh
virtue.
shit.
It would have been about if anybody committed a war crime in the war, not just by having the war, but the war itself. What was it? What, John? What do you owe shit?
I was saying, Ron Hilton and Ed both donated an ice cream to us on D Live, so thank you for that.
I say you bust out that chest and see if there spread the wealth. Make sure and do that.
All right, yeah, I'll do
Yeah,
that right now.
we're getting to that point anyway. I'm going to run through what Ron has been saying. Now, Ron
30
says,
seconds.
Ed says the only people I need to police anyone is Smith and Wesson, and see that's the mindset that I'm talking about. Ed, it's like do we really want almost 350 million people self-policing? Do we think that's a good idea? Knowing the
Well,
level of idiocy that does exist in our population. I'm not. It's not to be rude, but it's true. Um, but Helton says government's main job is to protect our liberties. When is the last time they actually did that? Well, I
yeah, no,
mean,
I mean, I'm on your side with that, Ron. That's what it's there for. That's why it's supposed to be there. They need to be reminded of that, but that is why they're there originally. And I'm not saying that they do that now. I'm just saying that's how it needs to be.
well, I mean, I won't say that in the recent, there are there are times when they do protect liberties. When we had our big gun debate and everything, I pointed out some in the recent past where the Supreme Court has sided on the side of the Second Amendment in regards
Hmm.
to some gun legislation in certain states. So, I mean, it does happen, just not on the scale you want. I think we're currently in a time where people are questioning their liberties more, right? We're unfortunately put in that position where like your liberties are much more raw nerve than they normally would be, and it's going to get more and more raw as that liberty is kept at bay. But Helton says the same thing. He points out that with this virus, government taking the right steps and put out accurate information, no huge outbreak, no lockdown, and yes, it is on the government. There's an onus on the government for
Yeah.
responsibility in that. There's an onus on the media for responsibility in that. We can go back to some onuses on the president himself for certain cuts that he made to in the CDC and in our emergency planning, et cetera, et cetera. There have been cuts and things like that made. You know, it, yeah, it's nothing's being handled properly. But what do you do? I mean, I can't agree that the alternative is no government at all. I just can't
Yeah.
get behind that. South Korea had less cases because people were informed from the last SARS outbreak and they told the people to wear masks. Here they lied, and and I can thoroughly agree with that. I think it was very confusing about masks, and it's not, you don't necessarily need to wear them. And then there was like, well, no, but you do, and no, but you don't. And now it's getting to the point where they're like, well, maybe people do need to be wearing them. Fucking crazy misinformation.
Yeah.
Um, it's and this is one of those things where I'm like, how are we not looking at successful responses to these kind of things from the past or in the current situation and mimicking those exactly? I mean, we think we've got a lockdown here. It's nothing compared to what they've done in other countries. I mean,
Yeah.
they've had real motherfucking lockdowns in other countries, and in some of those places have shown positive effects. Uh, Ron says the local, state, and federal government there is absolutely garbage, and everybody knows it. Or here is absolutely garbage, and everybody knows it. Yes, it's it's a catch 22. They're garbage, but they're having to make garbage decisions right now too, based off garbage. God, it's a lot of garbage. It's
Yeah.
all garbled up. They are too scared to get rid of them for the reasons you have articulated, Robert. I don't think it would be that bad. Um, um, I don't know. I think it could be a pretty scary fucking environment for a while. Uh, you know, just the transition from no government to no government. Oh God, you know, who who takes charge, right? Like that. It's like, okay, what will your state or slash local government do when you get down right down to it? What will your community government do when suddenly the power to rule is thrust upon them? You know, what's going to be best for everybody? But American exceptionalism. You know, when it's all said and done, um, unfortunately, aren't we not in a place, John, where that every government official, no matter how small, is forced into the position of what's the best for everyone? Right? It's a situation, the betterment of everyone. This is, you know, the safety of everyone involved. The betterment, you know, you're fucked in a position like that, right? Am I right that you
Yeah.
have to make those decisions? Isn't
Yeah, it's definitely not a position that I envy, but at the same time, they wanted it. I mean, yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to make those decisions for people.
even a libertarian would be forced into that position in a situation like this. We've kind of discussed that. So I mean, it's
Yeah,
like, you
and
know,
in a sense, it's not in the same way. They probably wouldn't have the
sure,
same
sure,
reactions.
sure. Um,
Yeah,
but you know, it's you know, it's this idea that, you know, when you have, you know, you're forcing a lot of smaller governments to come out of that, and then you will have the same thing where you have like these arguments between states about traveling between the states now and checkpoints, and we don't want your citizens coming into our states. Well, you know, in a situation like this, even small scale communities with small scale leadership like sheriffs and common law, you, 5 miles away is a border with another community who's saying, don't fucking come in here, don't come around us, there's a virus going around, don't come in here, you know. And you know, it would turn into the same fucking situation. It really would.
yeah.
Boulder Vaughn, he shows up right at the finish line. He shows up
Hey,
in there.
Boulder Vaughn,
Nice to see. The media in this country is so focused on their TDS that they have lost sight of the main job, information. Absolutely.
a hundred
Um,
percent. Yeah,
and it's not just Trump derangement syndrome. The media has lost their way for the last 20 plus years. I think it's been going on, at least, that the media has been tracking towards headline sensationalism and create a story that supports that headline. You know, people here have guns. Try to keep mine from keep my
trying to
bourbon from you. Keep me
keep me
from
from
my
my
bourbon store. Yeah,
urban store, yo.
that's not an essential, sir. That's not an essential.
That's absolutely essential.
Bullshit. Essentially, I need to get motherfucking drunk.
Right, exactly.
Duarte of the Philippines has issued shoot to kill orders for violating the lockdown there. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Well, that's Duterte. I mean, we expect that from him.
You think you're sacrificing liberty here, brother? Go travel. Find out. There's some nasty shit going on around the world. You know,
I mean, just saying
that's
that it's not as bad as other places doesn't mean that we should just be okay with whatever
it's not
happens, so
saying
long as it's not as bad as over there. You know what I
no,
mean? That's I
no.
think that's a good argument to
It's
say.
that's not the argument being made. I'm just saying, you think it's bad here, go some fucking where else. That's your advice to make your fucking peace with what's going on, because you're not going to stop it. Goes back to that. You're not going to fucking stop what is happening unless you get enough coordinated effort to just go fucking overthrow the government. Get
Yeah, I
to
doubt
it.
that's gonna happen.
Get to it. But you're not supposed to be out of your house, so figure it out. um, Boulder says, I start making my home guillotine today. Save the bullets, you know? Borders are racist. Wait,
But he spells it, yeah, borders isn't like they're boarding your ship or something.
I was thinking like
Oh,
your tenants. Your tenants are racist.
that too. Yeah, well, sorry about that. Those are your kids, right? What happened?
I should have known when I let it out, and when I let out this room for rents, I would only get racist.
Right?
But Seawall showing up. I love it when people come in at the end
Everyone's
of the
showing up
night.
at the end.
Thanks for coming by. You
Yep.
goddamn sure better hit the goddamn like button and then
That's right.
backtrack
Get the like button, guys.
and then
That'll
back.
be awesome.
Then you can go back and watch what you supposedly liked. Uh, he wrote into chat on a bio sealed half track with pizza and making boogaloo gas mask noises. Wow.
Mask noises. Excellent. Yes. That's what we like to hear.
Okie Dean in the house as well.
What's up, man? Hell yeah.
I love it. Maybe we should keep going. Not. I'm tired. God, you guys have drained me for the last two
Right?
hours. So, final word of advice, folks. Get over your fucking self. It's happening. Nothing's going to change it. Just, we can't unring this fucking bell. There's just no way to unring it. So ride it out. Drink your booze, work your work, do your thing. And remember, it's essential that you go out there and get your essentials.
That's right.
And remember, everybody has something essential to offer.
And over on D Live, thank you again to Jay Edgar and Ron Helton, who have donated lemons and ice cream between the two yet again. So yeah, thank you guys. You
All
guys are
right.
awesome.
So, John,
That's the equivalent of hitting the like button, by the way, on D Live. So make sure you do that.
let's go ahead and wrap this bitch up. And I think one of the things we need to wrap up with is you need to let these wonderful people who've been here tonight having a
Yes.
conversation, much love for the conversation tonight. Let these people know what's going on next Friday, John.
Yes, next Friday, noon to midnight Eastern Standard Time, the only good time zone. The only real time zone, really. We're doing a Freedom Scoop charity event to benefit the people who have been most affected by the coronavirus going around. We haven't picked a charity yet, right? But we think we've narrowed it down.
Well,
But
we
we'll
we
be letting
know
you guys know.
we are definitely targeting first responders. Whether it's
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
it's
of course.
whether it's money going to those people, or if it's going to be about getting them the equipment they need, because both of those avenues are options out there. Um, you know, because a lot of the issue is that they don't have enough supplies, so that's where a lot of money being raised is going to, is to try and drive those supplies up.
Awesome. But yeah, so we're doing it for 12 hours. We'll be having all of our Freedom Scoop people, Stephen Ignoramus, Jay Edgar, RRC, um, Wyatt's going to be there too. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Matt Christensen is going to be there as well during some portion of it. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So guys, make sure you're there.
Yeah, please make sure you're there. And I will say this: if you don't show up at some point during that charity stream, I'm never going to believe that you love us like you say you do, because I
Yeah,
typically feel the love. But
typically.
if you're not there, I mean, what the fuck else are you going to do, right? I mean, what the fuck else you got to do, right? You might as well. You're going to be stuck at home. You might as well be stuck at home with us. We're fun
We
sometimes.
are fun
We are fun sometimes.
most of the time.
Once we were fun once, at least. And
At least one.
and yes, I will be doing everything in my power to get in touch with Jane and seeing if we cannot get a wonderful guest appearance by Jane during the 12-hour charity stream. More than enough reason to get folks to come if we can get Jane here, along with Matt Christensen. I mean, I don't want to, but he ranks number two next to Jane because she's a knockout. Uh,
Right, of course.
Before I say my piece, John, one other thing. Tell them where they can find us. I think there's something down there they can find.
Yes, down in the description, you'll find all of our links. You'll find our Twitter, which is at the GenGapP. You'll find our Discord server, and if you're not on our Discord server, then what the hell is wrong with you? It's such a fun place. It's very active compared to some other Discord servers I know of. But no, our Discord server is very fun and spicy. It's a good time in there. Go check it out. And you can also find us on freedomscoop.com. Also links conveniently below. Where you can find our stuff, and you can find things from J. Edgar, Stephen Ignoramus, already conservatives over there, Wyatt from Roundtable Decisions there. So make sure you go and check that out too. And while you're over there, you can also buy our shirts and our mugs, which are pretty awesome. And I'm not talking about our faces. I'm talking about coffee mugs, right? This face is not for sale. Okay? All right. Yeah, so you can go and buy some of our merch, which is pretty awesome. I think you can actually see my T-shirt right there. But yeah, they're nice T-shirts. You can also put in the code GinGap at checkout to get 15% off your purchase, which is also pretty awesome. I think it's a pretty good deal. So make sure you do that.
I was doing the Vanna White with the cup while we were talking.
I saw that, yeah.
You like that? The Vanna.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great Vanna, but what do you do?
Yeah.
Pat Sajak wasn't here. And Boulder Vaughn, just to let you know, some FAP is better than no FAP.
That's true.
I'm just saying that because some FAP makes us FAP-tabulous.
Yeah,
All right. So we're going to get the hell out of here and go about our normal isolated lives. We are going to be back on Monday. Didn't show any leg. Of course, I'm showing leg. I'm not wearing any pants.
Right. It is illegal to stream without pants on. So, or to stream with pants on. I mean, damn it, I fucked it up.
Yeah, you ruined a perfectly good. Well, perfectly. It was a joke. All right. So anyway, we'll be back on Monday with our regular shooting the shit episode. It's going to be here at 9:30 Eastern time, the only time zone that matters. If you're not on it, get with the program. Right. And then, of course, after that, we will also be back once again, as John said, next Friday on the 10th. We're going to be hitting it 12 hours, 12 solid hours. We're going to be pumping it into you. Nothing like 12 solid hours of John and I pumping stuff into you.
That's right.
We are down for that. Unless, something crazy happens, but I don't expect anything crazy. Outside of that, much love, much appreciation for everybody that's shown up tonight. Lots of good talk, questions, responses. This is good conversation. Let's keep these conversations going. If you agree that we need to start talking about shutting down the shutdowns, make these conversations that you're having with people in your daily life on your social media sites. If you've got a stream, talk about it on your stream. Let's get that conversation going so that we can go ahead and start getting away from this 30 and 60 day madness that we're currently on, because ultimately I don't think it's going to have we're past the point of it having an effect or doing any good. And we need to get back to business as usual, get back to living our lives, and kick this fucking super cold in the ass, and call it a day. So outside of that, we're going to get the hell out of here. John, thank you very much for being here tonight. I don't say it enough, but I truly do appreciate you this much.
Goddamn right you do.
All right. So other than that, peace out, folks. Have a great night. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. And other than that, peace, John. See you later.
Yep. See you guys.
The war will begin.